Welcome to the GCN Racing news show. Coming up this week, it's been a packed 7 days in Italy with the Giro della Toscana, Coppa Sabatini and the Memorial Marco Pantani, as well as the Trofeo Matteotti. The World Championships kicked off with the mixed relay, while many others were putting their finishing touches to their preparation with Championship of Flanders and the Primus Classic. The World Cup Cyclo-cross still in the USA moved to Waterloo, and of course, we have the latest transfer news. The World Championships kicked off in Yorkshire yesterday with the inaugural mixed relay event. It's something we saw for the first time at the European Championships, where the Dutch took the title. The team time trial has gone through various changes over the years, from a 400-kilometre affair to the trade team setup that this has replaced. It was a rainy affair on a really technical circuit. A 3-up men's team did a lap of 13.8 kilometres before handing over to a team of 3 women. The British occupied the hot seat for quite a while, and while Italy got close, in the end it was the team from Germany who went quicker, only then for the Dutch to run true to form as Bauke Mollema, Jos van Emden and Koen Bouwman handed over to Lucinda Brand, Amy Peters and Rianne Marcus, who made history as the first ever mixed relay world champions. Si and Dan are currently up in Harrogate in Yorkshire, and I've done a big preview for the World Championships from the Zwift Draft House, which you'll be able to find over on the main GCN channel today. So what can we take away from a week of Italian single-day races? Where have these races been hiding from our screens? For one, Italy used to have one of the busiest one-day programs, but after many tough years economically for the country, many have disappeared. While over the past decade or so we've become ever more accustomed to seeing the single-day semi-classics from Belgium and France, Italy, not so much. It's almost like a sleeping giant awakening to the focus of their northern cousins that the effort has been made to get these races broadcast, and what races they are. While the last race on the domestic calendar was the Adriatica Ionica race, which I always struggle to pronounce, there's 12 races finishing with the Giro di Lombardia. They're also perfect World Champs preparation races, especially this year, given the route in Yorkshire. So what can we take away from last week's offerings? Well, at the Giro della Toscana, we had Egan Bernal announcing he wasn't riding the Worlds due to lack of form. Perhaps this was a little premature. He was the rider that started the winning move after teammate Diego Rosa had gone after the early break. He was the one who launched the final sprint, only to be outgunned by Giovanni Visconti, who took his 34th career victory at 36. In a season dominated by the youngsters, Visconti does one for the peloton, old boys still up there and winning. When we went live on GCN Racing at the Coppa Sabatini, Alexei Luchenko was already off the front. The Kazakh national champion was looking superb, time trialling away, behind a chasing group of Sonny Colbrelli looking for his hat-trick of victories in this race, with Neri Sotoli, Simone Velasco and Christian Sperali of the Israel Cycling Academy were absolutely on the rivet, as they say, trying to close the gap. Luchenko's victory really was never in doubt, and he cruised home with Colbrelli having to settle for second again for the third time. That third victory will have to wait till next year. Just 2 days later, at the Memorial Marco Pantani, Luchenko was at it again, with an early 7-rider break being whittled down to just Diego Rosa of Ineos and Guillaume Martin of Wanty Group Gobert. The peloton had them in their sights with 4 laps of the flat finishing circuit in Cesenatico just to complete. Luchenko jumped across in just a kilometre, latching on with just a few hundred metres to go. He took a big deep breath before launching his sprint to victory. A slight reward for Rosa hanging on for second and Martin for third, ahead of a fast closing peloton. While we're all talking about Sagan, Van der Poel and Alaphilippe and the like for the race for the rainbow jersey next week, is the hat of the man from Kazakhstan now firmly planted in the ring. Just like the week before the Tour de France, the looming presence of the World Championships casts its shadow wide over the calendar. At the Trofeo Matteotti, my tip for Yorkshire Matteo Trentin confirmed his world's form with a victory there. He looked great at the Tour of Britain and was a member of the breakaway group riding here for the Italian national team. He owed his teammate Matteo Fabra a few Peronis afterwards for all the work he did to keep the breakaway clear. Once he launched his sprint though, it was a pretty academic affair and he cruised to the win. When you think back, he took his European title on a tough day in Glasgow. He's got the rhythm of the British roads in his legs after the Tour of Britain, and Matteotti confirms Trentin as another potential favourite. There was a gutsy finish at the GP Wallonia, where the twice national champion of Latvia, Chris Nielands of the Israel Cycling Academy, launched a late attack and held off a rapidly closing group for probably the biggest win of his career so far. Defending champion Jasper Stuyven was second, while Jasper de Burst was third. What a week it's been for the 23-year-old Yannick Steimler. Last Monday, he won the Textile Prize as a stagiaire for De Koning Quickstep. He then signed a 2-year deal with the Belgian team, only on Friday, to then fight off the likes of Dylan Groenewegen to win the Championship of Flanders. So if we weren't 100% sure yet of Mathieu van der Poel's intentions for the World Road Race Championships after competing in the Primus Classic, which also saw welcome return to winning ways for Edward Turns ahead of Pascal Ackermann and Jasper de Voist in third, with the worlds coming in at 285 kilometres, Van der Poel thought he needed a 300-kilometre training day, so rode 100 kilometres afterwards, behind a motorbike. Mind-blowing stuff. Now to cyclocross. One thing we had a lack of last winter in Europe was mud, which changes cyclocross immensely. One thing they had in abundance at the Telenet UCI World Cup in Waterloo, Wisconsin yesterday was mud. It was the sort of mud where you could lose a shoe, and it changed the dynamic of the racing. Maghalie Rochette was in white. Yep, it didn't stay white for long, that white leader's jersey, but she wasn't allowed to have her sponsors' logos on her skin suit because according to the UCI rules, you have to have a team of at least 3 to be able to give your sponsors the publicity they deserve. That's a strange one, given that cyclocross has for many a year had single sponsored riders. Maybe these single sponsors will then go on to back expanded teams, but they'll need the publicity to justify that expanded spend. Trek's Evie Richards got a great start and led off, but she was eventually caught and passed by the evergreen Katarina Nash, who slip-slided her way to victory after only 3 laps ahead of Yolanda Neff, who relishes these conditions. She was coming through the field at warp speed, catching teammate Richards on the final lap, but just ran out of meters to catch the leader. At 42, Nash showed that she is still at her brilliant best, and she took over in the white leader's jersey as Maghalie Rochette came home in 5th place. Pau Sausen Bingol's Eli Iserbyt showed how much the courses and the racing in the USA suit him when he ran out the winner ahead of Telenet Valois rider Toon Aert and Michael van Torenau in 3rd. There were some great displays of balance and speedy dismounts as the rutted descents and off-camber sections tried to throw you off at will. And like Aerts last year, who laid the foundation of his World Cup win overall in the USA, can the young Iserbyt do the same this winter? However, the first non-Belgian or Dutch rider in the men's race was Frenchman Steve Chanel in 14th, while in the women's race, 7 nations filled the first 10 places overall. Now for some transfer news. Wout Poels and Simon Spilak have announced that they are headed to Bahrain Merida, with Poels looking for that Grand Tour leadership role, while Christopher Halverson is also leaving Team Ineos to head to EF Education First. That's a great move for both him and the team. Cassia Niewiadoma announced she's extended with Canyon SRAM through to the end of 2021. Interesting was the language she used in her announcement. It's always great to hear of a team focusing on the whole of the rider. Happy riders are generally successful riders, I have always found. Elia Viviani's brother Attilo has been picked up on a 2-year deal with Cofidis after impressing the French outfit as a stagiaire, having won Shells in August. It's also been announced that Fabio Fellini is heading from Trek Segafredo over to Astana. That's it for this week. Next week, it's going to be a big one. Have a good week. Bye for now.